This video is prepared based on official accident reports and witness testimonies. March 16, 1962. A Lockheed L-1049 super constellation disappears over the vast Pacific Ocean, taking 107 souls with it into one of aviation's greatest unsolved mysteries. Flying Tiger Line Flight 739 vanishes without trace, leaving families without answers and investigators without clues. Captain Gregory P. Thomas commands the 5-year-old super constellation on a classified military air transport service mission. 93 Army soldiers, specially trained rangers and communication specialists board at Travis Air Force Base, bound for Vietnam's escalating conflict. This secret mission coincides with the official beginning of the Vietnam War campaign, as America quietly increases military presence in Southeast Asia. These soldiers carry orders to relieve personnel training South Vietnamese forces against Viet Cong insurgency. What begins as routine military charter across the Pacific transforms into aviation's most enduring mystery. After routine position reports over Guam, Flight 739 simply vanishes. No distress calls, no wreckage, no survivors, just silence over 200,000 square miles of searched ocean. This is the story of how 107 people disappeared into the Pacific, creating conspiracy theories, family heartbreak, and an investigation that remains open 60 years later. The vanishing of Flying Tiger Line 739 proves some aviation mysteries may never be solved. Lockheed L-1049H Super Constellation N6921C represents the pinnacle of 1950s propeller-driven aviation technology. This elegant 4-engine airliner features distinctive triple-tail design and pressurized cabin capable of high-altitude operations across vast Pacific distances. With 17,224 airframe hours accumulated over 5 years of service, the aircraft maintains excellent safety record under Flying Tiger Line operations. 4 Wright R3350 turbo-compound engines provide reliable power for long-range military charter missions. The passenger manifest reveals the mission's classified nature. 93 specially trained Army soldiers, including rangers, communication specialists, and electronics experts. Their destination carries them to Saigon during America's quiet escalation in Vietnam conflict. 3 South Vietnamese military personnel accompany the American soldiers, suggesting coordination between Allied forces during this critical period. The civilian crew of 11 includes 4 women, reflecting Flying Tiger Line's progressive employment practices for the era. Captain Thomas leads the experienced flight crew with extensive Pacific crossing experience. Flying Tiger Line specializes in military contract work, operating cargo and personnel flights supporting American military operations worldwide. The mission timing proves significant. March 15, 1962 marks the official beginning of Vietnam War campaign according to Army historians. These soldiers represent America's increasing commitment to supporting South Vietnamese government against communist insurgency. Orders specify relief of personnel already training Vietnamese troops, indicating ongoing American involvement predating official combat operations by several years. March 14, 1962 begins with pre-dawn preparations at Travis Air Force Base, California. Flight 739 prepares for trans-Pacific crossing via established military air route. Honolulu, Wake Island, Guam, Clark Air Base, Philippines, then final destination Saigon. Weather conditions appear favorable across the Pacific with no significant meteorological concerns reported for the planned route. The super constellation carries 9 hours of fuel for what should be routine 8-hour segments between refueling stops. Soldiers board carrying standard military equipment and personal belongings for extended deployment. Many travel to their first overseas assignment, while others return for additional tours supporting American advisory efforts in Southeast Asia. Travis Air Force Base buzzes with typical military activity as Cold War tensions require constant personnel rotations worldwide. Flying Tiger Line operations integrate seamlessly with military air transport service requirements for civilian contractor support. At 05:45 GMT March 14, Flight 739 departs California airspace heading west over Pacific waters. Initial flight segments proceed normally through established airways used by military and civilian aircraft crossing vast oceanic distances. Honolulu and Wake Island refueling stops occur without incident, following standard procedures for long-range operations. Minor maintenance checks reveal no mechanical concerns as the super constellation continues westward progression. March 15 arrival at Andersen Air Force Base, Guam marks the final documented safe arrival for Flight 739. Ground crews prepare aircraft for departure to Clark Air Base, Philippines during what becomes the final leg of this mysterious journey. March 16, 1962, at 12:57:39 departs Andersen Air Force Base, Guam. for what should be routine 6-hour flight to Clark Air Base, Philippines. Weather remains clear with excellent visibility across the departure area. The Super Constellation carries sufficient fuel for 8-hour flight duration, providing adequate reserves for approach and alternate airport requirements. Standard flight planning accounts for Pacific weather variations and potential routing changes. Guam International Flight Service Station clears the flight for departure using established airways crossing Philippine Sea toward Luzon Island. These routes see regular military and civilian traffic connecting Pacific bases. 80 minutes after departure at 14:22 GMT, Captain Thomas radios routine position report, placing Flight 739 at coordinates 280 nautical miles west of Guam. His transmission indicates normal operations with no concerns reported. The aircraft maintains course toward next navigation checkpoint at coordinates 14°0, 135°0. This represents standard position reporting procedure for oceanic flight operations. At precisely this time, Guam Flight Service Station experiences temporary communication difficulties with heavy radio static affecting multiple frequencies. This atmospheric interference proves common in tropical Pacific regions. At 15:39 GMT, Guam radio operators attempt routine position report contact with Flight 739 but receive no response. Multiple attempts on various frequencies yield only silence from the aircraft. Captain Thomas never reaches his scheduled reporting point, never requests assistance, never indicates any problems. Flight 739 simply vanishes from radio contact over empty Pacific waters. Before continuing this mysterious disappearance, please subscribe to Through the Pilot's Eyes for detailed aviation analysis. Your support helps us research these unsolved aviation mysteries. Now back to the vanishing of Flight 739. Clark Field Rescue Coordinating Center declares Flight 739 officially missing on the morning of March 16, 1962, 24 hours after losing radio contact. Military authorities immediately mobilize one of Pacific history's largest search operations. 4 branches of United States military coordinate massive search effort. Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Marines deploy aircraft and surface vessels across suspected crash area. 48 aircraft and 8 ships participate in initial response. Search operations cover over 75,000 square miles during first 2 days, expanding to more than 200,000 square miles before conclusion. No trace of wreckage, debris, or survivors emerges from intensive 8-day effort. The only potential clue comes from Liberian tanker SSTL Lincoln, whose crew reports observing bright light in sky near Flight 739's expected position approximately 90 minutes after last radio contact. Witnesses describe illumination strong enough to light ship's decks, suggesting possible in-flight explosion. However, no debris field follows this sighting despite immediate search efforts in the area. Military officials acknowledge the bright light observation but cannot confirm connection to missing aircraft. Pacific Ocean's vast expanse and extreme depths complicate any potential wreckage recovery efforts. Search aircraft maintain coverage patterns across suspected flight path while surface vessels examine floating debris from various sources. None proves connected to Flight 739 or its 107 occupants. The disappearance occurs amid unusual circumstances that fuel conspiracy theories for decades. Earlier the same day, another Flying Tiger Line aircraft suffers catastrophic accident in Alaska's Aleutian Islands, while carrying classified military cargo. Flight 7816, also a Super Constellation, crashes during approach to Adak Naval Air Station, killing the flight engineer in subsequent fire. The aircraft destroys its secret cargo completely, preventing investigation of mission details. 2 Flying Tiger Line military charters experiencing disasters within hours raises immediate suspicion of sabotage or coordinated attack. Airline officials publicly speculate about possible enemy action against American military transport operations. Company statements describe these theories as wild guesses, while acknowledging the unusual timing of dual incidents. No evidence supports sabotage theories, but coincidental timing seems beyond statistical probability. Cold War tensions heighten suspicion as American military operations expand globally. Soviet and Chinese intelligence services actively monitor Western military movements, potentially targeting supply lines. Flight 739's passenger manifest includes highly trained specialists, whose loss significantly impacts American advisory capabilities in Vietnam. These soldiers possess advanced skills in communications, electronics, and jungle warfare techniques. The classified nature of both flights prevents full disclosure of circumstances surrounding the incidents. Military secrecy protocols limit public information about passenger identities, mission details, and cargo manifests. Investigation efforts focus on technical failure possibilities, while acknowledging security concerns require classified analysis of potential sabotage scenarios. The Civil Aeronautics Board launches comprehensive investigation, despite limited physical evidence. Without wreckage examination, investigators must rely on indirect evidence and witness observations to determine probable cause. Based on tanker crew sighting of bright light, investigators conclude Flight 739 most likely exploded in midair. However, determining explosion cause proves impossible without examining aircraft remnants. Flying Tiger Line officials emphasize Super Constellation's excellent safety record, noting that normal operations cannot produce explosions capable of complete aircraft destruction. Company experts insist external forces must have caused catastrophic failure. Technical analysis reveals no known mechanical failure modes that could cause total aircraft disintegration without leaving debris field. Fuel explosion scenarios require ignition sources not present during normal flight operations. Weather conditions eliminate turbulence or storm activity as contributing factors. Clear skies and calm seas provide no meteorological explanation for sudden aircraft loss. Military investigators examine potential hostile action scenarios while maintaining classification of specific threat assessments. Enemy submarine or surface vessel presence cannot be confirmed in the area. Structural failure analysis considers metal fatigue, design flaws, or maintenance issues. However, the aircraft's relatively young age and low flight hours argue against catastrophic structural failure. Investigators acknowledge multiple possibilities including hostile fire, sabotage, or unknown technical failure. The final report concludes aircraft was destroyed in flight without determining specific causation. The mystery endures because no physical evidence ever surfaces to confirm any theory about Flight 739's fate. Flight 739's disappearance devastates families across America, leaving them without closure or answers about their loved one's fate. 93 military families face uncertain futures as soldiers vanish without trace. The military declares all personnel missing and presumed dead, but provides no details about mission circumstances. Classified aspects of the operation prevent full disclosure to grieving families seeking information. Wives become widows without confirmation. Children lose fathers they may never see again, and parents endure uncertainty about sons deployed to classified missions. The lack of remains prevents proper burial and mourning processes. Military benefits payments begin based on presumed death declarations, but emotional healing proves impossible without understanding what happened over the Pacific. Families organize support networks while seeking government answers. Years pass without new information as the case remains open but inactive. Periodic requests for declassification meet partial success, revealing some details while maintaining security restrictions on sensitive information. Jennifer Kirk, niece of Army Specialist Donald Sargent, speaks for many families. There's nothing, no trace of anything. The complete absence of physical evidence compounds emotional trauma for survivors. Decades later, families continue seeking recognition for their lost loved ones. The soldiers' names remain absent from Vietnam Veterans Memorial because their deaths occurred outside designated combat zones. Veterans organizations support family efforts to honor Flight 739 casualties as Vietnam War casualties, acknowledging their role in early conflict stages. For 60 years, families campaigned for proper recognition of Flight 739 casualties as Vietnam War veterans. Their deaths during classified military missions supporting Vietnam operations justify memorial inclusion. In 2021, Wreaths Across America organization erects monument in Columbia Falls, Maine, bearing names of all 107 people lost aboard Flight 739. This represents the only memorial specifically honoring these forgotten casualties. The inscription reads, "Missing in action, presumed dead." Flying Tiger Line Flight 739 went missing on March 16, 1962, with 93 U.S. Army soldiers on board. These men and their flight crew perished in what would become one of the biggest aviation mysteries out of the Vietnam War era. Family members gather from across America to witness memorial dedication, finding emotional healing through public recognition of their loss. Many express gratitude for finally seeing their loved ones' names honored permanently. Congressional legislation introduced in recent years seeks to add Flight 739 casualties to Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Supporters argue these soldiers died serving their country during Vietnamese conflict operations. Annual ceremonies at the main memorial provide opportunities for families to gather and remember their lost relatives. Wreaths Across America continues honoring these forgotten heroes through ongoing commemoration efforts. The memorial serves dual purposes: honoring the dead and preserving historical memory of early American involvement in Vietnam War. These soldiers represent commitment to freedom during dangerous Cold War period. Recognition efforts acknowledge both military service and civilian crew contributions to national security during critical historical moment. Thank you for following this unsolved aviation mystery with Through the Pilot's Eyes. Please subscribe for comprehensive analysis of aviation's greatest unsolved cases and historical investigations. 63 years later, Flying Tiger Line 739 remains aviation's most compelling unsolved disappearance. Advanced search technology has failed to locate any trace of the aircraft despite periodic attempts to solve the mystery. The case demonstrates how some aviation accidents resist resolution despite extensive investigation. Without physical evidence, even experienced investigators cannot determine what caused Flight 739's disappearance over the Pacific. Modern satellite technology and underwater search capabilities offer hope for eventual discovery, but Pacific Ocean's vast depths and shifting currents complicate any recovery efforts. The aircraft could rest anywhere across hundreds of thousands of square miles. Conspiracy theories persist regarding sabotage, enemy action, or cover-up operations. However, lack of evidence prevents confirming any specific scenario about what happened during those final minutes. The tragedy reminds us that early Cold War military operations carried enormous risks for personnel serving their country. These soldiers accepted dangerous missions supporting American foreign policy objectives. Flight 739's story preserves memory of forgotten casualties whose sacrifice enabled later American military success in Southeast Asia. Their loss contributed to lessons learned about Pacific air operations security. The family's decades-long fight for recognition demonstrates love's persistence beyond death. Their determination ensures these heroes will not be forgotten by future generations. Until wreckage surfaces or new evidence emerges, Flying Tiger Line 739 remains one of aviation's greatest unsolved mysteries, taking its secrets to Pacific depths.